Hello class and welcome to a new analysis of Places Loved Ones by Philip Larkin. This poem is spoken by a man who admits he has never found either of the two great anchors of a settled life, a home and a partner. Its main themes are belonging and rootlessness, love and the surrender of choice, and the self-deception we use to excuse our compromises. Philip Larkin published it in his 1955 collection, The Less Deceived. Before we look at the first stanza, let's look at the title. It consists of two plural nouns separated by only a comma, with no verb. The juxtaposition of these two plural nouns pairs the poem's twin subjects, which are home and love. Let's move on to stanza 1. As always, I'll leave you a moment to pause the video, read it for yourself, and form your own opinion before I begin the analysis. So as you have read in the stanza, the speaker confesses that he has never found a permanent home, nor met the one person with a claim on his whole life. The first thing to notice is that the poem opens in medias res. So the flat opening of the word no answers a question that we have never heard. It seems like we have walked into a middle of a conversation or an argument that the speaker is having with himself. That no also launches a pattern of negation that structures the whole stanza with no, never, nor. The speaker therefore defines his life entirely through absence, through what has not happened. And in particular, he has not found his life partner, and he has not found a final home. Negation here carries the theme of rootlessness, and so the first person narration also permeates this first stanza with four I's and my. The repeated I and my keep the focus on one man auditing his own life. It makes the poem seem like a confession rather than a general statement. Through direct speech, then, Larkin imagines the words he has never been able to say. He has never been able to say that this is my proper ground and that here I shall stay. He has never been able to call a place home, and is therefore quoting what other people say about their own home. Quoting the unspoken words makes the missed homecoming seem all the more vivid and disappointing. Then the modal verb shall expresses total certainty and permanence, precisely the feeling the speaker has never felt. The confident modal therefore becomes quite ironic. Then Larkin deploys a legal and financial lexical set. Instant claim and everything I own. So love here is imagined as a transaction, a takeover of assets. And this contractual view of love, which is cold and cautious, helps explain the speaker's reluctance to marry, and his unsentimental stance maybe suggests why he isn't that appealing of a partner to other women. And the stanza closes on hyperbole. The claim reaches everything I own. Larkin believes that once he is married, his partner will have a claim on every single thing he owns, including his own name. This exaggeration enacts the total surrender one must undergo when marrying. And let's now move on to stanza 2. As always, please pause the video, read the stanza for yourself, make your own opinion before I begin my analysis. In this stanza, the speaker tries to rationalize, to justify his failure, arguing that finding a home or a great love only proves you wanted to give up choice. It is obvious here that Larkin is quite bitter. He is sour that he has not been able to settle down, and is trying his best to justify it in his own brain. Well, first of all, the stanza pivots with a shift in personal pronoun from I to you. This is a turn in address. So the poem started as a confession, but it becomes a generalization. Larkin is trying to argue that in general, marrying and settling down in a home is a bad idea in general. Hence the you. He is trying to turn his personal excuse into a universal law. And the diction of to prove belongs to logic and the courtroom. The stanza therefore instantly presents itself as an argument, a piece of reasoning with evidence and conclusion. The diction of the two next lines, no choice in where to build or whom to love, illustrates how restrictive settling down has become. Commitment to a partner or to a place to live, cancels choice. Once you decide your final partner and your final home, you cannot renege on that decision. It is a durable choice. Then there is a striking personification. The places and the lovers are asked to bear you off irrevocably. The location in which a person lives and the beloved become agents and almost abductors who carry the passive speaker away for good. Responsibility is transferred entirely onto them. The speaker, Larkin, becomes a passive object controlled by his partner and his home. Then we have a subjunctive construction. Should the town turn dreary? So here the speaker imagines a hypothetical future failure. Tellingly, the speaker cannot picture a commitment without immediately picturing the disappointment that accompanies it. So we can tell that Larkin has a very biased stance. He is already going into hypotheticals. Then the dental alliteration of town turn, carried on by dreary and dolt, create a percussive T and D sound, and the hard consonants knock through the imagined disappointments, giving them a blunt and hard finish. And finally, the final line uses ellipsis. The girl adult. Well, actually, the grammatically correct sentence would be this girl is adult, or the girl is adult. But Larkin omits the verb entirely, compressing the disappointment into 4 words. The omission therefore creates a brusque and dismissive and contemptuous tone. And let's move on to the final stanza of the poem, stanza 3. As always, please read the stanza for yourself, form your own opinion before I present my analysis. So, as you have read, in the stanza, the speaker admits that having missed both home and love, you must pretend to be delighted with what you have settled for. And you must stop yourself from dreaming that the real thing is still out there. The stanza opens with a volta. The turn is signaled by the word yet. Everything the previous stanza justified is now reversed. Whilst the excuse that Larkin crafted still stands, he must still face the consequences of his choice. The word bound is interesting because it has various different connotations. It is sort of a pun. To be bound means to be obliged, but it also means to be tied up. Even the man who avoided every single tie, a stable place to live, and a partner, ends up bound anyway. Then notice the adverb of concession, nonetheless, which Larkin for some reason wrote separately. It's supposed to be one single word. So here Larkin concedes that he still has to face up to the consequences of his choice. Then the lexical set of act and as if and then settled for introduces the themes of performance and compromised. Life after settling is theater. The feelings are simulated and the delight is scripted. Settled for once more indicates compromise and sacrifice. Then comes the colloquialism mashed, which is 50s slang for being madly smitten and infatuated. Larkin has to pretend that he is ecstatic of his current living situation. It is a performance that he has to uphold in order to seem respectable in society. Finally, the stanza's negation resurfaces in uncalled for, and in the instruction to keep away from thinking. The speaker now polices and controls his own imagination. He forbids himself to daydream, to dream about something better. Hope itself here is negated. Larkin understands that a hope that never fulfills itself is even more painful than having no hope at all. And on that note, let's move on to structure, form, and rhythm. Structurally, the poem is a 3-stage argument. Confession in stanza 1, rationalization and justification in stanza 2, and correction in stanza 3. Notice how also in the very final line of the poem, the title sort of comes back, creating a cyclical structure. In terms of form, the poem consists of 3 tight stanzas of 8 short lines, clipped and guarded like the speaker himself. Rhythmically, the rhyme scheme is ABAB, CD, dominated by half rhyme, as in one with own and prove with love. These near misses of sound enact the poem's theme of imperfect fit. Now let's move on now to the conclusion. As always, we can sum up Larkin's poem with 3 main themes. The first one is belonging and rootlessness. The speaker, in his own words, has never found his proper ground. Negation running through no, never, and nor define his life entirely through absence. Home exists in this poem only as something missed. It's safe to say that the speaker in this poem is a solitary man who has no place to call home. The second theme is love as the surrender of choice. In this poem, love, quite wrongfully, I believe, appears as an instant claim that carries you off irrevocably. Commitment is imagined as a contract and as an imprisoning capture. Finally, the third theme is self-deception. It is very clear that Larkin is trying to justify and rationalize his own failings. He desperately tries to act as if he was ecstatic and happy and joyful with his current living situation, but we can all tell that he is not. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed this analysis. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.